Season 2, you almost turned into a bug.
Yes. Bane.
Yeah, with Colleen Renison, who would later come back as Cassandra.
Yeah.
What kind of a process was that to shoot with all of the webbing and the grossness of this transformation? Was that rough?
It was the bane of my existence. That was one of my least favorite episodes
Really?
to shoot.
To shoot.
Because when they were explaining the cocooning process, they neglected to tell me that it couldn't be taken on and off easily.
Oh, no.
So in the morning, when I would be cocooned, I would be in that cocoon until lunch, which was 6 hours, in the same position for 6 hours.
You don't tell me what to do, I am gonna get the cops. My dad used to know a couple guys we can trust.
No.
But look at you. You don't really want this to happen, do you?
So yeah, that wasn't one of my favorite episodes, no. And thank God it was before like a lot of the hijinks started, because I was completely vulnerable to whatever was going on for 6 hours. So thank God a lot of the major tomfoolery hadn't started yet.
That episode has one of my favorite endings because it shows the innocence and the sincerity of the show when he goes back to thank what was her name? The character's name, Allie.
Teal'c! Hi!
Greetings, Allie.
You're okay.
Thanks to you, I am feeling much better.
Ah, man, it was no sweat. You look way better. I guess you can't really tell me what happened, all that top secret James Bond stuff, right?
That is correct.
When he goes back to thank Allie for saving him and brings her a squirt gun, and then you squirt Daniel and then go off and play. How else would she defend herself? It was little sincere moments like that I think made the show really just accessible to so many audiences, because it was just, I think the human interest elements of the show, an alien falling in love with a planet full of people, I think really worked in that episode.
Yeah, no, I agree. And once again, it was an example of the commonality of us all. I find it that Teal'c is especially embraced by children, and I always tried to play Teal'c with a sense of wonder. That he was emotionally and knowledge-wise a child in this new world, and his thirst for knowledge and the processing of it, which is in my mind very childlike. And what more do we have in common among all of us than loving our children?
Guess we shouldn't have loaded it, huh?
How else would she defend herself?
How else?
In season 3, we found out that Teal'c's family wasn't always aligned with Apophis. We found out that he was originally with Cronus. His father, Ronak, was the first prime of Cronus and was murdered in a very, very brutal way for a Jaffa. And it started off this whole, as Jack would put it, that damn Jaffa revenge thing.
Kronos killed Teal'c's father?
Oh, for crying out loud. Why doesn't he tell us these things?
My father was once first prime of Cronus. When I was but a child, Cronus commanded my father to attack a Goa'uld who was more powerful at the time. It was an impossible battle to win. When all was inevitably lost, Cronus killed my father as punishment and exiled my mother and I. We fled to Teal'c. I vowed I would become the strongest Jaffa I could. So one day I would be named First Prime of Apophis. Sworn enemy of Cronus.
Was this a direction that you were happy to go in, or was this one that was like, really, guys, this isn't something that I would like for my character particularly? How did you feel about that, and how did that play out?
Well, I was for peeling back the layers of Teal'c and exploring what made him the way he was. So I was surprised but I was accepting of it. I just thought anything else that we could introduce to explain why Teal'c was the way he was. On a personal level, because I never had like a really good relationship with my dad, it gave me on a interpersonal level a lot of levels to play. You know, I didn't have to search far for for that to drive scenes. So I was all for it, and I wish we had maybe even in the beginning. It was even talked about to have Teal'c's mother still be alive, and we had actually discussed it, and I can't remember why it didn't come to fruition, but Diane Carroll was in Vancouver doing 42nd Street, and I had suggested Diane Carroll to play my mother, and there were some talks.
I'll be darned.
And then I don't know why it didn't go further, why we didn't, or maybe we just didn't have time to explore that particular part of it. Well, okay, let's be honest. The writers hated writing Jaffa episodes because not only were they costly and most of the times over.
It's all
our
off-world.
pattern. Yeah, and then you had to bring in all these Jaffa, then have staffs that fired and dust stunts, and but the overwriting thing was they had to write in the way that Jaffa speak. So
Which is not easy, I'm sure.
yeah, and so the only people by the second or third season. First season we had Jeff King, who I wrote, I think, one or two, but were Kindler and DeLuise. Damon Kindler and Peter DeLuise were the only ones that would write Jaffa episodes. And then when Damien left, it was only DeLuise, because he had played an alien, so he had an affinity for Teal'c. But that was the genesis of me writing was.
If no one else is going to do it, I'm going to.
Well, no, Brad actually came to me and said, if you want more stories, you have to write them, and that was kind of the jump off point for me writing.
Well, that's a huge feather in your cap right there, because they're saying, we want to see what you have to write. Other people would be like, I'm good.
Well, we've talked about the difference in shooting in Canada and shooting in the States. I don't know too many producers that would encourage you to write when you as an actor are not in a position to hold them ransom. I was under contract and by no means going anywhere. To have an executive producer come to you and encourage you to write, which theoretically is taking money out of his pocket, I was astounded, and the level of support that I got from all the writers was, I didn't know what to make of it, but it was fantastic, and they really encouraged me to write more.
I fear losing you a second time.
No. Never again.
You had Brooke Parker, you had Sally Richardson, you had Musetta Vander, you had Jolene Blaylock. You know, some terrific actresses to play against.
Hey, go big or go home.
Were you involved in the casting process of the sequel? Were you invited to provide input?
The only input that I had was for Birthright, and
Jolene.
They said, "Well, who do you see playing it?" And I said, "I kind of wrote it with Jolene Blaylock in mind," and never thinking they would. Then the next day, they sent her the script, and then by the end of the day, she had signed on.
Teal'c of Teal'c, former first prime of Apophis, a Shovar who has become a legend.
It's a bit thick, don't you think? I am no legend. I fight as any true-hearted Jafar for the freedom that we deserve.
I didn't know that there were just that. I mean, what Jolene said to me it just really made me go, wow.
What'd she say?
Was just that she had never had a role like written for a woman that actually the words sounded like, you know, they were actually coming from a woman.
If it's such a strong female character that she's used to playing, not I mean, you've got the character on Star Trek, but now with Ishta, you know, there's a lot of similar strength there, and you gave her a chance to exercise some emotional boundaries that she hadn't been in her other show for a while.
Well, I actually didn't write the character as female. I just wrote her as a Jafar.
Yeah.
And gave this character a female name. You know, so I mean, I think hopefully the one thing I learned is that there's no strong male characters or strong female characters. There's just strong characters.
That one means pride.